What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Leroy McKenzie Jr., coming to you. It's the brand new development series podcast coming to you. Y'all know how we do it. We want to bring you some knowledge, information, and resources that are going to be able to build you up, take you to that next level, that are going to enlighten, empower, and impact you in such a way that you'll be better after the conversation than you were before the conversation that we had. And as y'all know, from time to time, what I usually do is I have a guest that comes on and we deal with different aspects of branding your company, your business, your business, your business, and your brand. Or we also talk about business from a personal perspective as well, that you can be able to give you just some tools that you can use, hopefully some knowledge that you can use to be able to get you into that next level that you're trying to be able to get to. So I have today a guest with me that is he's a friend, he's a brother, and he's a fellow church member of mine, and I've had the pleasure of being in the same men's classes with this brother. I've had the pleasure of just being around this great brother, and it's a wonderful thing when you can surround yourself with people that are like-minded, are grounded in God, like you are, and are trying to accomplish some of the same things that you're trying to accomplish out here in the world, in the community that we're talking about. So I'm going to introduce him, and then I'm going to let him introduce himself to you. And it's none other than Mr. Frank Johnson III, from EAC Sports. Is that the full name of it that you give it? Sports?
It's Elite Athletes for Christ Sports Management Agency.
Absolutely. So I want to make sure I get that right. But I'm gonna let him introduce himself. Tell us a little bit about himself, and then we'll get into the conversation that we're gonna be talking about his industry, what he does, how he does it, and then how it impacts the community, and how we can bring some of these young brothers that we have in the community and get them to have a better understanding of what it is to be an elite athlete for Christ.
Good evening, everyone. Look, it's always a pleasure when you get a chance to talk about one of the gifts that God has given me, and that is to be the president of Elite Athletes for Christ. Elite Athletes for Christ was founded in 2004. I am a former athlete. I played football throughout high school and college. And the funny thing is that I'm actually certified as an NBA agent. You know, when I first became an agent, I thought of being an NFL agent, but God had other plans. And I became an NBA agent. And since then, since being in business, it has truly been a pleasure to work with all kinds of athletes, have an opportunity to send them all over the world. And when you get that special athlete to actually have an opportunity to actually play in the NBA. I started, like I said, in 2004. It has not been a smooth road, but it's definitely been a road that I know that God has put me on. And that's what gives me the encouragement to keep going each day, because it's not a career for the faint of heart. You have to be focused even when things don't seem to be going your way, because there's always someone who's actually looking to you for advice and wanting you to give them the sound judgment that you need to have for a situation, even though it might not always benefit you. You know, I've had a lot of ups and downs in this career, but I count it all joy, because when you're walking in your purpose, every day is not going to be a sunny day, but that still doesn't mean you're not supposed to walk. So it's like I'm excited to be on the telecast today, and I look forward to sharing more of my story as we go along.
Now, you said something interesting that I want to pick up on. What's the difference between an NFL agent and an NBA agent? You can't do, like, if you can't just be certified as an agent and be able to work in certain industries. Is there certain criteria that they have for each of them that you have to go through?
Well, you have to be certified by the state in which you reside, and that's a uniform agent license. However, in order to service the athletes that are in the different entities, such as the NBA or the NFL or maybe Major League Baseball, you have to have an individual license in order to be able to service the contracts and work on behalf of the athletes with the teams.
Oh, okay. Oh no, that's cool. That's cool. Because I never even thought about that. That you weren't just an agent, get certified as an agent. You have to specifically be certified as a football agent, basketball, baseball, hockey. All of the different sports, sports
Absolutely.
areas that they carry. Okay. No, that's cool. That's cool. All right, I want you to let's start off. Second thing I'm gonna say, give us one fun fact about you that people wouldn't. That's not on the bio, that's not in the resume, that people just wouldn't even kind of think about Frank.
Well, I am definitely a movie buff. I love to watch movies, specifically old classic movies. Like, this probably would throw some people off, but one of my favorite movies is Paid in Full. Like, the
Oh wow,
movie,
okay.
it talks a lot about like loyalty, business acumen, and being able to build a brand and make people happy and deal with all the different struggles that you may come up against while you're building your brand.
Mm-hmm.
So like, that movie is like one of my favorite movies that I watch a lot. And it just parallels to the entire like agent game, because there's always going to be multiple people with a product, but what makes your product different or better?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's our advantage at Elite Athletes for Christ, because we have Christ at the center of our business. And with that being said, like, I feel like that is my superpower of being an agent. Just having Christ at the center of everything that we do, it helps tremendously when you're trying to work with an athlete.
Yeah, I like that. Christ is my superpower. That's cool. So Paid in Full is your favorite movie?
Yes, Paid in Full. Paid in Full. It's so funny, because the movie talks about the sale of narcotics, but when you look deeper into the movie, it talks about so many deep business principles about product distribution, about being readily available, doing something different than what the trend calls for, and being someone that can stand out in spite of all of the pressures to be like everyone else.
Wow. That and that's good. That's good. And see, a lot of people don't. To me, they don't seem to look at movies from I guess you being an entrepreneur, you kind of have a different eye for when you're watching movies. Because I'm the same way when I watch movies. Because I just watched the movie Self Made about Madam C.J. Walker, and then I watched the movie The Banker with Samuel L. Jackson and Anthony Mackie. And watching those two movies, like you just broke down Paid in Full, I did the same thing with those movies, because there were so many nuggets and so much knowledge that I pulled from it from an entrepreneurial perspective in different ways. Seeing, like you talked about, the distribution, talking about how to handle your brand, all of those things were intertwined in both of those movies. So I think that was great. That was that's a great way.
Well, I want to see The Banker, so I'm looking forward to seeing that movie also, because I know that movie has a lot of great information in it.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. It's on Apple Plus. So if you have an Apple phone and you have a smart TV, you can get it on your TV or on your phone with signing up there. But it has a lot of those things, because I did a live today, the 10 takeaways I got from The Banker, from the movie The Banker. And it was just a number of things that I pulled from it, that I thought that being an entrepreneur kind of gave me some things for me to think about personally, and then also for my clients to think about too, that I can use to be able to assist my clients and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely check it out. It's definitely a great movie. What got you interested in being an entrepreneur? Did you always want to be an entrepreneur, or was that something that kind of came along?
I truly believe I was called to be an entrepreneur and called to be an agent, because like,
Okay.
I went to college, I studied mathematics with
Okay.
a minor in education, and
Mm-hmm.
I started being a teacher.
Okay.
And the first high school where I was assigned, it was a high school that had a nationally ranked basketball program.
Oh, wow.
And two of the young men that played basketball for that program needed to pass the SAT to accept their scholarships to the Division I schools.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the pleasure of helping both of them pass their SATs. And then I started realizing, like with me being a former athlete, I realized how much athletes needed in the day-to-day, talking to these two young men and finding out that they needed much more than just the schooling, but they also needed advice, wisdom, and mentoring in order to be able to reach the level that they ultimately wanted to reach, which was making it to the NBA. And it just opened up my eyes to a whole different aspect of what I should be able to do if I wanted to work with a young man to be like an agent.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Wow. Okay. So now that gave you your introduction into being an entrepreneur. What made you want to start to start? How did you come up with the name Elite Athletes for Christ?
I didn't want to name it Elite Athletes for Christ.
Really? Okay.
It took me a year to name my company.
Really? Okay.
I prayed about it, and like, so to be honest with you, like, the business doesn't belong to me. It actually belongs to God.
Yeah.
That's why I'm only the president, because Jesus Christ is the CEO.
Yeah, there it is.
It's not on the bio or anything, but when people say, well, aren't you the owner? I'm like, in human form, I'm the owner. But in the spirit, no, I'm not the owner. Like, because this is not, I've been privileged and honored to get the opportunity to be able to even represent this company. And the thing about this thing was, I knew going in order for me to be who I wanted to be as an agent with a name like Elite Athletes for Christ, I had to do a lot of work on myself so that I would not misrepresent the brand. And that in itself, that's a lot of pressure, because a lot of times you come in, you have this one idea of how you want to do business and what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. And God threw a complete monkey wrench in that. He was like, nope, you're going to name it Elite Athletes for Christ, and that's going to be the name. And it was very clear. And I mean, like I said, it took me a year. I wanted to name it so many other things, but that was the only name that kept standing out.
Okay.
And then when I did the trademark on the name was available, and it's history.
Uh-oh. Yeah, I think you're breaking up, Frank. I'm not sure if it's your Wi-Fi. Go ahead. Now go ahead and finish.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah, you were breaking up a little bit. Go ahead.
I said one of the beautiful things about it is, after it took me a year to name the company, God was very clear about what the name of the company had to be. And like I was saying, like, when you have a name like Elite Athletes for Christ, you have to be able to model the brand, which means that you have to have the behavior of Christ in order to model that brand effectively. And it caused deep concern, because I wanted to make sure that I was going to be able to live up to that. And when God was like, oh, it's going to be Elite Athletes for Christ, it was settled. Like, I couldn't name anything else. And when I did the trademark, the name was available, and the rest is history. And now, 16 years later, we're still in business.
There it is. Now let me ask you this: having the name, and you can tell me if you've encountered this, because I know I've encountered it with my name of my business. But have you encountered individuals that kind of are hesitant to do business with you because of your name and because of the stance that you've taken with being having Christ as the foundation of your business?
At first I thought it would be, but actually no, because people choose you and what you represent. And when you represent it the correct way, it makes people they want to inquire more about the business. Okay. So it's like, that's why I was like, I knew I had to be right within, so that when people chose the business, it would be a reflection of Christ. And people who don't know a lot about Christ might think that it's a limiting factor, but like I said in the early part of the interview, it's actually a superpower. Like when we go into a business deal, we're going in there with that idea of, we have Christ backing us in this decision, and we're going to do it the way he envisions it to be done. And then if that's the case, we're going to win. And it makes your athletes feel a lot more at ease, because you know that you're not just focused on making money or getting the deal done, but you're focusing on the development of who they are as a person, and you're tapping into things that are outside of that realm of just business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now talk about what Elite Athletes for Christ is, because you said it's a sports agency, but talk about what it is in its totality, and what you all offer to individuals that come in and want to have you all represent them.
Okay, we do contract negotiations. I actually went to the University of Baltimore, and I did the pre-law program, because I didn't want to work with contracts without having extensive knowledge of what entails to actually form and create contracts.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the contract negotiation is important, because everything that an athlete does revolves around the procurement of a contract. Mm-hmm. So it's like I wanted to make sure I was highly trained in that area and having expertise, so that when we do a contract, I feel totally at ease of the language that's in the contract and what the contract says, and feel comfortable with if we have to make adjustments or changes in the contract. We also offer management and mentoring. Management and mentoring is the key to keeping an athlete. You can get a great contract, but if you don't manage the relationship and mentor the athlete appropriately, most of the time the relationship will break down and you'll lose the athlete. So like we take a lot of time and consideration in how we're going to mentor the athlete. Like as far as like what type of books they may read, how does their spiritual life set up. And here's the thing, an athlete does not have to be a Christian for Elite Athletes for Christ to represent them. Right. Because the principal foundations of Elite Athletes for Christ is faith, integrity, and trust. And every athlete has to have faith. He has to have integrity to play the game the way the game is intended to be played. And he has to trust that his body is strong enough and his mind is strong enough to be able to handle the task of being a professional athlete. And those principles, they actually parallel to any religion. Like, so it's like we tell athletes that all the time. Because we're Christian, it's not a limiting factor. It's actually an addition to what you may believe, so that we can help you be exactly who you're called to be the athlete that you're called to be.
I like that. Because a lot of people do see that when they see religion as a barrier or as a limitation. But like you said, when people can understand the position that you're coming from, and that just because I'm saying this is what my foundational belief is, I understand that yours may not be the same, but at the same time, here's what we can do for you, because we're not going to limit ourselves to saying, no, we're not going to do business with you, or we're not going to take you on as an athlete. Here's how we can enhance you into what you can, and what you're doing, and everything like that. And it becomes, to me, I think that becomes a lot easier for people to understand and to be able to, like you said, you can't argue with that, because those three tools that you just gave, faith, integrity, and trust, those run the spectrum of anything that you do. You should have a foundational faith. You should definitely have integrity, in anything that you're doing, any business that you're doing. And then people got to be able to trust you. If I can't trust you, hey, I don't know too many people that they're doing business with that they can trust, or that they can especially entrust their lives with. And I think that's what the athletes that come to you, or even just any deals that you do, when they come to you, they're trusting you with their lives. They're placing their lives, or certain aspects of their lives, in your hands, and say, I trust you enough to be able to guide me through what it is that I need to be guided through with this and everything like that. So I think that's awesome.
That is important, Leroy. That is so important, because with them being so young and having such a financial gain at such a young age, that trust piece has to be there in order for them to be able to play at the level that they need to play at. Because once you shatter the trust or you violate the trust, you take your mind off of the game and you're not fully focused on the game, you're not going to play the game at the highest level that it's designed to play it at. And so that's what we want to alleviate and take that apprehension away so that the athlete can just focus on being the best athlete that he or she wants to be.
Absolutely. Now, let me ask you this. Are those three things that you just gave me, plus the other three that you gave me, which is advice, wisdom, and direction, I think was the third one, were those tools that you used in order to be able to build your business and then also to build your brand on?
Those are definitely tools that I built my brand and my business on. As you see, I have on a sweatshirt that says Gifted right now.
Absolutely.
This is an extension of Elite Athletes for Christ. This is a brand that I designed with athletes in mind because they're gifted. And it's based off of the biblical scripture, Proverbs 18:16. But it's also a brand that anyone who is gifted can wear because we all have a gift that has been purposed inside of us that we need to share with the world. And I try to teach athletes that if they understand that the gift that they have inside of them is meant to be shared with the world, and if they take care of that gift, then that gift will pay them for a long time. And that's really important as an athlete, that you know that going in the door, because the average career in the NBA is only 3.5 years. But in 3.5 years, you could possibly make enough money to take care of your entire life and set yourself up for the next endeavor that you may have in your life after you play the game. So it's important that we tap into those gifts from day one, that we become a partnership in their business of being an athlete and I being an agent.
Yeah, and that's something to think about, because like you said, if you're between 19 and 23, 24, starting off your career, and you're only in that industry for 3 years, let's say maximum 3 to 5 years, is your window of opportunity to last in that industry. But you can set yourself up. You figure by the time you're 28, and you've set yourself up for the rest of your life. That's some deep stuff to think about right there.
Yep, and that is very important. And so, like, if that athlete understands that principle coming in the door, and he uses his faith, integrity, and trust to the highest level that he could possibly do it at, he's going to have a lot of positive results. And that faith is important because sometimes you may get injured. You may get injured and you might not be able to play at the highest level, but that still shouldn't take away from the principles and the foundation that you've built your entire game off of, because eventually you're going to heal and you can get back to it if you do things the right way. And that's why it's so important that your faith is in touch and in alignment with your purpose, because the obstacles are going to be placed in front of you. There's some things that athletes have to overcome when they become professional athletes, and they have to be the master of their own time and space, and make sure that they don't allow any vices to connect to them, or allow themselves to be pulled away from the gift that actually gave them the opportunity in the first place.
Now, you and I both know that there are athletes who get caught up, like you said, in the vices and everything, or don't have the understanding of the faith, integrity, and trust. What do you do when you encounter those kind of athletes that don't fit that mold? What would you say to that athlete that doesn't have those foundational things and doesn't come into, like you said, into the industry with the mindset of understanding about the small window of opportunity that they have, but the amount of money that they can make that would set them up for the rest of their lives?
And I had to always make that decision, and it's definitely a decision that is greeted with a bunch of prayer and just focus and making sure that it's the right fit. Because if we choose each other, and I tell athletes that all the time, if we choose each other, then I have to be able and be okay with who you are, and have the energy and the know-how to teach you the things that you need to know so that you can actually represent yourself, your family, and your community the way that you're supposed to. Now guess what? That doesn't always happen.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
if you give a young person large amounts of money
Yeah.
and they don't want to seek the wise counsel, most of the time they have to take a major fall before they actually can understand the lessons and the principles that you're trying to teach them.
Right.
And that's okay, because and that's the beautiful part about it being elite athletes for Christ. Because in spite of all of the things that we didn't do right, we're still accepted by Christ. And he still loves us with open arms in spite of our imperfections. And I keep that in mind. Like I'm very empathetic with athletes, because I understand like there's a lot of pressure associated with them being the elite athlete. And sometimes they can't handle the pressure. So that pressure sometimes comes out in their behavior that's not always positive behavior. So an athlete usually very honest about the things that trip them up. And if we can have that open and honest communication, then we can work with that. Because if you're telling the truth, we can fix things. But if you're not telling the truth, then we can't fix the things that are broken because of the behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. I like that a lot. Now, what 5 steps have you incorporated in your business to assist you in being grounded in your faith and doing business in your particular industry?
5 steps. Well, I know for a fact, faith, integrity, and trust. I would consider that as like a 1 step. That's 1 step.
Okay.
Whenever I'm thinking about an athlete, the first thing that I do, if I want to represent an athlete, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pray on that athlete's behalf.
Okay.
Because I have to know that that's an athlete that I should even be working with from a spiritual standpoint. And then once I'm settled in my spirit about that's who I should be working with, then there's research. We have to research. Research probably will start probably in the 9th grade. Because you have to know who this athlete is, know where he comes from, know what type of family he's from, know the things that he likes, things that he doesn't like. And then there is the actual eye test where you actually go out and you see an athlete. So you can watch his mannerisms, watch how he responds to his coaching, watch how he responds when he doesn't get a call go his way. See how he responds to his parents when his mom or his dad is giving him instruction that he may or may not want to receive. Then there is that application piece where you have to actually recruit the athlete. And that recruiting the athlete may come in the form of you reaching out to the athlete on social media, reaching out to him through print mail, reaching out to the athlete through phone calls, and then maybe face-to-face where you meet with their parents and you meet with the athlete and you explain the principles and the concepts of elite athletes for Christ. And then that 5th step is actually the implementation of the first 4 steps to begin the process to representing the athlete.
Oh wow, I like that. That's good. Those are good foundational things. So for those entrepreneurs who are out here and who are watching this or who will watch this, understand that any business that you start, you want to have foundational principles that you build your business on, that you build your brand on, and that you should be built on. It kind of starts with you. What are those things that you're built on? And then you say, what do I build my business on, and then what do I build my brand on? So that's some good stuff right there, Frank. I like that. Now, how do you handle dealing with young men like you mentioned this a little bit, that go from possibly having, no money or no access to, to kind of things, to all of a sudden everything, to having access to people, having access to being able to go buy whatever they want, whenever they want, however they want, having people kind of just doing whatever they tell them or want them to do. How do you navigate dealing with that young athlete that you come into?
So I think the main concept that that athlete has to understand, and he has to understand this from day one. What is your why? Why are you doing the things that you're doing? It's obvious that you're gifted. It's obvious that you're going to make the money. But why are you doing these things? Are you just doing it just for the money? Are you doing it just for the fame? Are you doing it for your family? Are you doing it because you want your community to respect you a certain way? Why are you doing the things that you're doing? And why are you playing? And that question usually is very heavy because most of the time, a lot of athletes, they play the game because they love the game and they play it well. But a lot of times they don't really know why they're doing the things they're doing. So once we get that established, then we can go from there. But that why you are playing the game and why you are doing the things you're doing is so important. It's critical to the development of the athlete that we're trying to develop, which is an athlete who is grounded in his faith, who is elite in his performance, and who is centered in Christ in everything that he does. Like that is not an easy aspect to be an athlete of that nature, but those are the things that we look for, that we try to build with an athlete when we want to help him become everything that God called him to be.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now let's talk a little bit about the and you mentioned it at the beginning a little bit, the products and services that that Elite Athletes for Christ offers, because you talked about management and stuff like that, and then also the apparel that you have there. So to just give people an idea of the breakdown of like when as a sports agent, what you cover, and then other things that you have, like the gifted apparel line that you have there too, because I love that. I love that.
But the apparel thing, apparel is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And the one thing that I want athletes to understand, and this is why I created Gifted. They are the reason why people come to the arenas to see them play. They are a brand. The sooner that they can understand that they are a brand, the sooner we can maximize that opportunity. And so when I come to the table, I wanted to have something to show the athletes to say, hey, I've already created a brand. And I'm not just trying to piggyback off of your brand. What I want to do is I want to take my brand and help you become better at the brand that you choose. So like being able to see something is always really important, especially with young people, because the first question you ask, well, did you do it? And the question is absolutely. Take a look. Here it is right here. It's online. You can purchase it online. I don't even have to be present. You can make a purchase. We've made sales all over the country. We're trying to become a global sports agency, and that's why Gifted has been created, because it will actually drive the global brand behind Elite Athletes for Christ.
Wow, that's powerful. Now let me ask you, what advice are you giving to your clients right now in this current climate that we're in, with them not being able to necessarily kind of practice the way that they used to practice, going into the gym and being able to practice? Are you kind of talking to them about things that they need to be doing right now to be able to get through this, and then kind of what it may look like on the other side?
Actually, you know what? We aren't even really talking about basketball right now. We're talking about hope, and we're talking about faith. Because this, and it is truly my belief that this is something strategically designed by God to slow us down so that we can get back on track and get focused on the plans that he has for our lives. So I'm talking about faith a lot. And I'm definitely talking about like purpose a lot. And to see, the game is 90% mental. But if you're not strong enough to fight through the adversity, you won't play for a very long time. And there's going to always be some adversity. It might not be physical. It might be a mental adversity where you've practiced your game for a long period of time and you've outperformed other players on your team. And during the game, you have to sit on the bench. I actually have a player that's going through that right now. Before everything shut down, he couldn't understand why he wasn't getting playing time, which resulted back into that mental strength. And this is building, this incident that we have with this pandemic and the coronavirus, it's building mental toughness and strength right now. Because you have to know that when everything opens back up, you have to not only be ready, but you have to be mentally strong enough to get back in the grind and do the job that you were called to do, no matter when they call. And I'm assuming that we're gonna be in this state probably at least another 30 days.
Right.
So there's a lot of time for reflection, and so that's why, like I said, I'm sharing a lot of faith. I'm sharing a lot of hope. And I'm not really talking too much about basketball right now because basketball really isn't that important. Like, it's actually, there is no sports in the entire world being played right now at all. But there's family gatherings every day. There is dinner being made at home every day. There's families talking about the word every day. There are a lot of things that are still in place that are really important. And those are the things that while you're home, you really should be focusing on those things because it's actually helping you to become a better man overall.
Now, what advice would you give an entrepreneur that is currently navigating through that, whether they're in your industry or in another industry? What advice would you give them in order to be able to get through this time that we're currently going through right now?
And that's a great question, and I was thinking about that a lot. Like, EAC is pretty much an all cash business. And what I mean by that is that it's okay when you're told no by the banks. You have to be able to generate cash and save money for times such as these. If you want to be the best business that you possibly can be, you have to make sure your foundational pieces are intact. Make sure that your business licenses are up to date. Make sure that your operating agreements are up to date. Make sure that the things that you need so that you can legally handle your business are intact. Check your Dun and Bradstreet your credit rating to make sure that your business has the right credit rating. Like, these are all the things that you can do when there is not actually the sale of things going on, because it's not just about making money. Like, you have to make sure that your foundation is right. Because if your foundation isn't right, and you and I both know from being believers, when the test of time comes, your business won't stand. So the foundation has to be built on a solid rock. And that's why I say, like, I'm really happy that I can say that we're all cash business. Like, that makes me feel really good because, like, during this time right now, I'm not really worried about making money right now. But the things that I'm concerned about is how am I going to generate the funds that I need to pay for the licenses that are coming up due in July? How am I going to be able to generate finances to set up if I want to do office space downtown, if I have a big client that I want to recruit? Those are the things that I'm thinking about, and I would recommend all entrepreneurs during this time, think about how your business is structured and how you can become a cash business if you can. Like, right now, cash is really important, and credit is also important. So, like, I don't really recommend people not paying things because the government is saying that, we're in this crisis. You really should be, if you've made loans or if you created debt, you should be thinking about making sure you can pay those loans and those debts, even during times like these, like, because you have to have what you call like a battle plan in place. If everything goes wrong, can I operate this business for 6 months? Can this business survive for 6 months with no money being created? And what I'm saying is that we have to go back to the drawing board as companies, because we should be saving. Like, in the times of plenty, we should be saving. Like, for instance, if I'm selling these gifted apparel online, the resources for the gifted apparel is not for me to spend the money right now. It's for me to save it so that for later dates, for times like now, when we're not really making the money doing your thing with your main business that's going on. You got to have multiple streams of income. And, like, it's a lot of things that people have actually the time to focus on right now. And I'm excited. It's leveling the playing field, but playing field level. We're all at home. We all are stuck in in our homes. And it was one of the things that I was really excited about, because I created EAC when I built my home. I built my office in my home because I always wanted to be able to do business no matter what the market or the climate was like. And right now, I'm not hurting because I have a home office, and that that is fully functional to actually get every aspect of the business done. And it just makes me feel good. And I really thank God for that, because that was really God putting me in the right frame of mind when I actually started the business, so that I could always continue on doing the business that he called me to do.
Absolutely. And that's some powerful stuff right there. So that's good knowledge and information that people need to understand, because I've been saying the same thing about this time right now, about the multiple streams of income for those that for those entrepreneurs. You don't want to necessarily have just one particular thing that you're dependent on, because if something happens, like you said, and you need that, and stuff stops, you want to be able to make sure that there's another stream that's able to be able to give you the income that you need. And especially, like you said, you're thinking of in the time of plenty, that's when you want to make sure that you're investing back into the business. You're saving up for those, for those months that you may need, where something can happen. It might not be to the extent that this is, because I don't think any of us would have thought something like this would have come along. But where there's going to be an extended period of time where you may, where that initial income, or the bigger part of the income, might not be there for you, but you have those other things that you've invested in, those other things that you've created, that you're able to actually still keep coming, have money coming in. And that's one of the things that I've talked to my clients about too. It's like, you got to have multiple streams. What other product services do you have that you can now use to be able to create other streams for you? Now that the one might not necessarily be there, you should have the others that are flowing in as well too. So that's great stuff. So last thing, and we'll end it with this. I want you to give your contact information for folks that want to buy the gifted apparel. Excuse me, want to buy the gifted apparel, or they want to be able to contact you. You might be an athlete that wants to connect with you because they like what you're saying, and they want to have a conversation with you about, you possibly representing them.
Oh man. So man, I have the URL, but I'm not quite sure how I can put that on the screen while I'm actually on the Zoom call.
Well, that's okay, because we can put it in the. I'll be able to put it in the like comments and stuff like that too, and in any posts that I do. So just make sure that I have the URL as well. Okay.
Okay, that'll be good. Like I said, because I'm learning this Zoom app as we go along also.
Now go ahead. Yep, and I'm gonna put it right here in the chat too. Go ahead.
Okay. Like I was saying, I'm learning how to navigate this Zoom as we speak also. Like this is something new, but I'm always up for the challenge.
Nah, you good, brother. You do it excellent. Trust me. Go ahead. What's the website that people can go to?
It's EliteAthletesForChrist.com.
Okay, cool. So I got that in there, and then I'll also put that in when this goes out. I'll have that in there as well. So they'll be able to do. They'll be able to contact you through there. They'll be able to buy any of the products that you have, any of the gifted product or apparel that you have there. And it's definitely, brother, I told you, I believe that it is a global. That gifted is sharp, man. I love the graphics. I just love everything about it. And it's something that resonates with everybody, because we all have a gift. We've all been given a gift by God. So that means that we're all gifted. And it goes to what you were saying, understanding not just what I'm gifted at, but why am I gifted, and how can I use that to be able to affect my community that I'm a part of, and the world in a larger perspective, to be able to
oh man, well, I wouldn't be remiss if I didn't shout out. This is definitely a family affair. My logo was created by my brother, Gregory T. Austin. He is a phenomenal artist. And my logo for Gifted was created by my nephew, Wills Jr. So it's like
Oh,
it's
cool.
a family affair with this entire business stuff. Like I'm really excited about it.
No, that's what's up, and that's a great thing that you just said that because you keep it in the family, you know. So what better way than to be able to use your family to be able to one give them exposure, but then two to be able to keep the things that you're doing on to the next generation and the next generation and everything like that. So that's good stuff, man. So that's good stuff. So um, I want to thank you, man. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. You know, I appreciate you. I appreciate you taking time out to be able to come and bless the people with your knowledge, with your information, the resources that you bring, and the care that you put into these athletes that are out here today. Because not all sports agent, to me, don't seem to come with what you come with, and I think that does kind of differentiate you from some of the other ones, where some of the other ones may just care about money and they don't worry about the person. You worry about not just you worry about the person and who they're going to be in society, who they're going to be in the community, and all of those things. So I thank you for what you do, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, and I appreciate you for having me on the Zoom today.
Said, cool, cool, cool. So, as y'all know, this has been another episode of the Brand You Development Series with your boy. And as I always say, we're in 2020, and my motto for this year is fast and furious, move with purpose and passion. And I always say, chase the impact, because when you chase the impact, you change the world. It's your boy, Leroy McKenzie Jr., and I am the Impact Chaser. So we'll talk to y'all next time.